John, of course, we'll start with that breaking news. Iranian State Media announcing that Khamenei's son has been tapped for Supreme Leader. What do we know?
Well, Gemma, this is a very significant appointment because what it suggests is that the Revolutionary Guard are still very much in control inside Iran. Mojtaba Khamenei, he's the second son of the Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, who was killed a week ago by the US and Israeli attacks. He's very much a hardliner. He's 56. He was born in 1969, and so he was 10 formative years when the so-called Islamic Revolution happened. So that was a major time in his life when the Islamic clerics took over Iran from the deposed Shah of Iran. Significantly, when he was 17, he joined the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps' Habib battalion, and so he's been part of that revolution IRGC culture since he was 17, and he then actually was part of their effort, the war in Iran-Iraq, with the Revolutionary Guard. And in fact, President Trump said a week or two ago, was asked what would be the worst case scenario out of this war, and he said if the regime survives and we get someone even more hardline than the then current Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, who was then 85. Now, I think that this may have happened. Certainly, the regime is still in place, but this is very much the Revolutionary Guard's appointment. He's much more part of the Revolutionary Guard. And when he was a cleric, it's significant, he studied under an Ayatollah Yazdi, who was a very, very hard line, even amongst the Council of Assembly, the Ayatollahs, the 88 or so who run the organisation. He basically was someone who, Ayatollah Yazdi said that anyone who gave in to Western immorality should be killed. And we've seen in recent years, like the Armeni killing, the protests against Mahsa Amini, the young woman who had her head scarfed too far back. So we've seen the crackdown. So the new Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is very much from that Revolutionary Guard hardline corps.
So a significant development there. We are now into the second week of this conflict, John. Who has the upper hand at this point?
Well, Gemma, it's certainly the Israelis and Americans have clearly pounded Iran, Tehran and other places. And now, of course, Israel has a new front that's reopened in Lebanon. It's been interesting to watch Iran's military tactics. At first, they tried to fire quite a few ballistic missiles into Israel. I think they realised very quickly that it's almost impenetrable. It's very hard to get missiles to hit Israel, and so they've clearly changed strategy to the drone doctrine. They also seem to be implementing what they call as the Mosaic doctrine. Most armies, such as the United States or Israel or even Australia, when they're at war, tend to have a central command, like the Americans have CENTCOM, which is at the Pentagon in Washington, and they run the war out of that. This is a doctrine that the Iranians have used with Hezbollah as well in Lebanon, and it essentially, just as a mosaic is made up of many, many different pieces that are separate and discrete, what they're clearly doing now is you see across Iran, which is a huge country, they're actually firing ballistic missiles from all different directions. They appear to now be trying to do it without access, without Tehran's military control. That's a way of trying to make themselves a harder target for the Israelis and the Americans. So that Mosaic doctrine, as the Iranians call it, appears to be in full flight.
What is Donald Trump's end game here?
Donald Trump, I think, clearly wants a different government, a different regime in Iran. He clearly wants one that will pose no nuclear threat to anybody, Israel or the world, and he clearly, with Israel, has certainly been strong on hitting all the ballistic missile capability inside Iran. That seems to be his aim, and to achieve that, essentially they have to get in his view, regime change. That's why the appointment of this particular new Supreme Leader will only ramp up things. This certainly, I think, will make President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu feel they have to go even harder. He is not a moderate by any means, although they have Pezeshkian, who's the Prime Minister, who says and tries to make more moderating noises. To appoint a new Supreme Leader like this is very much the Republican, the Revolutionary Guard saying we are in full control and this war will keep going.
Do you think Donald Trump expected the war to go as it has done?
I don't think he expected that it would hit as many places as it has. I don't think he thought that it would spread across the Middle East as much as it has. Every one of those Gulf cooperation countries now, those 6 of them have all been hit, and now 1 or 2 of them are starting to respond. It's not just defensive anymore. It looks like they're considering their own action. And I think with the Strait of Hormuz being closed, I think his military calculation was with 2 aircraft carriers there that he could keep that Strait of Hormuz open, which is sort of the source of 20% or so of the world's oil. But in fact, it's been interesting that it's been some of those tanker airlines and their companies for insurance and other reasons have decided that they don't want to risk their ships going through that, which actually strategically helps Iran, that in effect the Strait of Hormuz now has been closed. What Iran's strategy will be, because they can't match the firepower of the United States and Israel, Iran will be trying to drag this war out as long as possible and hoping the pressure on the Gulf countries, the pressure on the world's energy supplies will indirectly put pressure on President Trump. That will be Iran's strategy now. They can't militarily match the United States and Israel.
And so, John, does the Iranian regime look like it will fall?
Well, so far, I think the key thing to look for is defections in the IRGC. We're not seeing that at the moment. We're not seeing widespread defections, at least. And the fact that the IRGC has now appointed their preferred candidate, the candidate they always wanted to take over from the Supreme Leader, I think indicates that this regime still has a way to go. In fact, the Supreme Leader himself had suggested to people that he didn't think it was appropriate that his son should take over. And about a year or so ago, he started looking for other candidates. And so I think the fact that the IRGC has made this appointment suggests to me that they are now the preeminent ruling power in Iran rather than those 88 Ayatollahs.
America's editor, John Lyons, thank you.